Welcome back to the channel. Team Spooky, Tasty Steve joining the boy. How's it doing?
I'm happy to see you back, Steve. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. Very excited to see you back.
Well, you know me, man. I'm right around the corner, so we always have our little chats. But we got news to share with you guys. Look, if you're fans of Fatal Fury, Mark of the Wolves, or excuse me, City of the Wolves.
Let me get you.
Now we got to take. You're absolutely right. Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves makes its return not only in video game form, looking amazing, might I add, but is joining the stacked fighting game roster over at EWC among Street Fighter, among Tekken. Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves, now going to be at EWC. They dropped an amazing trailer to kind of like coincide with it. I mean, and everybody seems to be pretty happy about it, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm happy in the standpoint that, you know, me from the jump, the next level battle circuit, I love tournaments and events. And one of the reasons that I got into doing this in the first place is because I love seeing people play at the highest possible level of competition. And with the Esports World Cup, you already know, I mean, it was a huge event last year. It had $60 million as the total prize pool split up against the various teams. And competition-wise, it was some of the fiercest competition that we saw in an overall tournament period. I'm not just talking about fighting games, but in fighting games, the Tekken players were crazy. The Street Fighter 6 guys were all monsters. But then you had Counter-Strike, you had Rainbow Six, you had League, you had Dota. So you had the best in the business of almost every competitive game at the World Cup last year.
And like I was there in attendance, obviously, and it was like crazy to see it because you don't typically get stages like that for fighting games, let alone for a game like Fatal Fury or a KOF, which is right up their alley, by the way, because of the region, even more so. But once again, I think just one of the biggest things we should point out is like this is really big news for the SNK, KOF players out there of the world who play competitively, who don't typically get those huge prize payouts for games, especially not a brand new game.
Not nowhere close to this type of prize pool. You know what I mean? We're talking about $60 million, like I mentioned it before, individual players for each particular game getting about as much money as some of the other biggest tours, like the main Capcom Pro Tour, you know, the Tekken World Tour, MK1 Tour, all that stuff. So it's so humongous that it's almost like if you have any interest at all in the new Fatal Fury, you gotta go for it.
I mean, even people who have not been really like interested are going to play it. Like Big Bird has talked about it. Kizzy says he's unretired, back in the game of like competitive fighting games. There's so many people out there on the internet, on the interwebs, that are actually talking about this game coming to EWC and the fact that it's getting this kind of like backing in the sense of having a competitive circuit for it. Like that's actually crazy because we know how it comes to qualify for EWC. A lot of times they were doing like dream hacks and stuff like that where players had to travel to get there, qualify for EWC, and then go to EWC. So it's not only like it's a singular event that you're looking at, you're going to see events around the world of players that come from that region playing these tournaments to make it to EWC, and that builds like a crazy story for anybody competitively, like looking at the game here and in the future.
That's true, and it really builds opportunity for people too, because you know, last year you mentioned the DreamHack series, which was cool. It's always been a thing that's been kind of going on. They've been adding on more fighting games lately, in large part thanks to the work of Jabali, I believe, Tampa Never Sleeps, and a few others, which is great. But now with the Esports World Cup that's been backing DreamHack as well, you know, they're adding significantly to the prize pools for games that normally just would not have anywhere near this kind of money.
No, that's absolutely true, man. I remember I actually interviewed James Chen while he was over there for Street Fighter. He even said himself, man, he's like, you'll never think that you would see like a game that you've been playing this long on a stage like that. And whether like, you know, you've only been here since, you know, Street Fighter 4, then you know what that looks like. If you only been here since Street Fighter 5, then you know what it looks like. It's really easy to see the progression that tournaments are making, and like, especially for specific games and how they affect the community overall. I mean, honestly, look, Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves was already on the map for me.
True.
I haven't even gotten to play it yet. I've just been studying it heavy enough.
I'm glad you mentioned that,
be really interested.
We haven't really been talking a lot about how it could possibly play. Now, there's been some looks, and we've had a couple exhibitions. Shout outs to Reynold, who's played in one, and a few other the big monsters. And so far, what we've seen is a style that's surprisingly close to the previous Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves, Garo Mark of the Wolves game.
One of my favorites.
There's a little bit of extra combo juice added onto it, which I mentioned before. You got a little bit of extra stuff that you can do in your combos. So I don't know if that overall is going to lead to a faster paced game style, or if it's going to be more like a SF5 where you're waiting for that V-trigger moment and then you're cashing out when you got to cash out, that type of thing. But the style of gameplay looks to me like it's resembling that old Garo and
Yeah,
KO
it
style
is.
a little
It
bit,
really
how
is.
neutral plays out.
I mean, it very much reminds me of like the old school like one-on-one fighters. A lot of people who play like SNK games, the first thing you think about is KOF, right? You think about King of Fighters,
Absolutely.
3v3, learning all those characters, but a lot of people don't know about the Art of Fighting, the Sam Shows, the Fatal Furies. Like they don't know about stuff like that. So like a game like Fatal Fury, first off, it's a long, worldwide, world-known, very region-specific series, Fatal Fury, and then KOF spins from all of that, including like Last Blade and everything, World Heroes, all those games kind of fit in there. So like personally, I'm already a fan of Garo. I'm already a fan of Fatal Fury. I've been waiting for something like this for a long time, especially because it dropped in the same era originally as the Third Strike. So Third Strike, Garo kind of one in the same. And the art style now is very, very rare in the sense that like I feel like every other fighting game outside of maybe say like a Guilty Gear using like 2D sprites has like upped it over time. This is like the pinnacle of it because like this is the best arguably any KOF or SNK game has ever looked, and the visuals are like beautiful.
Cool. And I'm glad that that's a thing because part of what made the original Garo cool was people don't really think about that anymore, but that was SNK's answer to Third Strike.
Yeah, that game was beautiful.
They took a look at Third Strike and they said, well, that game's pretty, but we could make something pretty too.
Dude, the motion, the music, the system itself, like they did, you're right, it was definitely their answer to Third Strike in a time when we weren't getting very many sequels to any fighting games. Like those are like the next two slated to be the big games out there, Third Strike, Garo, like this is in that era. So you absolutely right about that, Spooky.
True. So we talked about a lot of what's going on. We talked a little bit about the general feedback and the reactions.
Yeah.
And you even brought up some of the names of people that were up in there. But I thought it was most interesting in that mostly the feedback has been extremely positive. That we see everybody's like, you know what? They did the tournament last year. It was exciting. It was cool. The big people all there. And this year, people are just like, I'm in there. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to train. And you got guys that I haven't seen play in months, like Reyno that you mentioned. And even I see some anime cats, Aaron DeMack in there. Big Bird, who was doing it big last year. Meta Abe has been hyping it up. Hell Pockets hyping it up.
Of course.
Lord Oda, the god, of course, the creator, baby. I even got the signed Oda shirt over here. You know what I mean? So shout outs to Oda too. And that makes it really, really popping, right?
Yes.
But, okay, and I hate to be that guy to bring this up. That's why I'm the one bringing it up, okay? There's still a little bit of a political thing going on with how this all works, okay? I personally, I'm not a politician, you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter whether I'm a Democrat or Republican. None of that really matters to you guys in the long run, at the end of the day. But the way that, their country has different rules and different laws than most of the other places in the world. And that's a thing that makes people perceive the event a certain way, right?
Yeah, it definitely changes the people that would attend, the amount of people that attend, especially just whether it's, whatever the reason is, the distance overall. And like you said, man, it's in a completely different country. They got completely different rules over there.
True.
So that really does, like, everybody looks at it a different way depending on where you come from. But
yeah, but at the same time, right? I brought that up. At the same time, right? I hope to see from them, a message of like positivity and like a change. And I'm not saying that gamers are going to change the world or anything like that, because that's not how any of this works, right? Yeah. But maybe they're running a worldwide tournament, and they're going to have people at their tournament that maybe they're not used to being around normally. And we're going to be around people that we're not used to normally when we're out there. We're out there. And this is part of the way that sometimes the world changes and people perceive each other differently because of the experiences like this. And again, I'm not trying to say that Esports World Cup is going to save the world and change everything politically, but I am saying that, it's confusing for me. It's like a thing that maybe I should give it a chance. You know what I mean? It's like that type of thing.
I mean, I feel you on that because, like you said before, man, look, you're in a region where, like, things are different over there. And, like, two, I'm right there with you. It's not like, it's supposed to change the world. But, like, the thing is like, who knows what this could bring for that region over there when it comes to, like, stuff like this and how these changes can affect overall. True. I mean, it's really one of these things where it's still in the growing stages. And honestly, like, I hope it all for the best. I hope it all works out for the best. That's all I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. I hope that it changes, everything. The game, the World Cup, the real World Cup. I'm talking about the football World Cup. That's such a ridiculous event that just think about it, the entire world goes crazy. I was in Japan last year for the match that the Japan team won. I think they won against Brazil or something like that. Bro. And they were out in Shibuya Square getting drunk, losing their minds. The cops were trying to stop them, and they were ignoring the cops. They were like, "It's time to party. We just won the World Cup." And that shows you how crazy it really gets with something this big. You know what I mean?
Just to add to that story, I was asleep in Shibuya when this happened. I woke up out of my sleep when they won because the entire city erupted. And what else? Another tidbit of it, like they were out in the streets partying. Do you know that the people who lived there actually cleaned up the streets right after it too?
Crazy.
So not only was the pop off enormous, but they went and made sure it stayed civil as well. But that's exactly what I mean by, it being something positive where it can be like celebrated everywhere, where people do have like, we talk about the fact that EWC is like a team tournament in most times, and these are region specific teams a lot of times. I call back to like Gamers 8 where it was like the teams were made specifically from players from the region, right? Which also happened in the Middle East. But just the same, like these kind of events are really good for putting eyes on big events that involve fighting games. If you are from fighting games, we don't have the biggest table to even have stuff like this, especially if you compare it to the Fortnites, the Valorants, the leagues.
You good?
Let me put this back in my pocket. Especially not if you look at some of the other video game events, the Fortnite, the Valorants, the League of Legends.
They got everything.
They have everything over there.
I'm pretty sure every game is at the event, right?
So it's like, and they have all those games, and even too, like we all know fighting games is basically at a table by itself most times. So them saying, hey, we're going to put even more fighting games in there says a lot to the fact that they want to get the community involved.
The esports pyramid, I mean, any esports pyramid that you ever looked at in your entire life always got fighting games on the lowest tier of the pyramid. Yep. So for them to support City of the Wolves big, and support all the other games, I'm sure we're going to see. We've already seen a Tekken announcement, I believe.
Yeah, Street Fighter.
Expect to see probably a Street Fighter announcement of some kind.
I think they already announced Street Fighter. I'm pretty sure Street Fighter's already there. So, I mean, that's what you have to think about in a scope like this, because typically it happened, around the same time, like after EVO last year, but like all the tournaments leading up to that, including EVO, is going to be something amazing to watch now, because you know that these games are really going to impact who comes out. You're going to get introduced to players of Fatal Fury and King of Fighters history that you don't know about, but all super respectful in the space, especially if you've been playing fighting games for a long time. So honestly, I'm super excited, man, because once again, it gives me another fighting game that I was already going to play anyway, that I'm also going to spectate at a high level. It's been a long time since a Fatal Fury game was in this limelight, which has been happening a lot. I mean, we got VF, now we got Fatal Fury that's back in the limelight, which is another game in the generational classic of fighting games. So I'm really excited for what could come from this, man. EWC is just, another tournament, I feel like, for fighting game players to potentially qualify for, to get big money on their side. So that's what I'm happy for.
Cool. Steve, you said a lot of good stuff there. Listen, everybody, so this is your chance. If you love SNK games, if you love fighting games in general, if you were there for the old Garo days, like I remember Jay Wong and all the guys playing at Chinatown Fair, playing Garo and trying to get better, look, this is an opportunity that you can play potentially an amazing SNK game, and you can do something real big, whether you go to one of the regional tournaments just to meet the community, or whether you end up being so good at the game that you could actually qualify for the World Cup and you got a team bringing you out there. I really wish the whole community an opportunity here. Last year the World Cup was a life-changing amount of money. An amount of money that could change the world for you, and whoever gets that, congratulations, for real, man.
Hey, that's for real. That's 1,000% true. It's a life-changing amount of money. And look, even outside of the EWC announcement, which we're all really happy for, we're really just happy that we get a brand new Fatal Fury game. So if you take anything from this video that we've talked about, play Fatal Fury, play fighting games, and make sure you have a good time. But look, that's the end of the video. We appreciate you guys coming out. By the way, tell us what you thought.
If you're gonna enter, you're gonna try Garo now because you saw the announcement, whatever else. Let us know what you're thinking, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Look, like, subscribe, tell us what you think, and tell us your thoughts on Garo when the game comes out. Are you gonna try it? Are you gonna play it with your friends? Have you ever even played a Fatal Fury game before? I want to know. Talk to us in the comments. We would love to hear what you have to say. But until the next time, thank you for staying subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate it. Spooky appreciate it.
Of course.
And stay tuned for more video game news from me and Spooky. Peace.